Thanks again for having me on. I'm super excited.
No problem, and welcome back to another episode of In the Film World. Today I'm talking with a Texas area, Houston area, from the Dallas Fort Worth area based filmmaker. That was a lot of descriptions in that, but talking with Adam Taylor. How are you doing today, Adam? And what
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
question I like to start out with? Number one question: what are you most excited about today?
Oh, wow. Today I'm most excited about meeting with Foley artists this afternoon on a project. So we've got a comedy thing we're working on, and we've got a bunch of Foley artists lined up to talk about doing some post-production work for us. So that's really what is most exciting today.
Yeah, that's really cool. Get to meet up with the people who create your sound effects for you. So, when you've been directing, how long have you have been doing this?
Professionally, I've been doing this since about 2010. That's when I collected my first paying job in video production world. But my wife has always owned a photography studio. We've always done commercial photography, and so video was a natural progression for that business to kind of go into this direction. So I've been doing photography with her since 2004 at our studio in Friendswood.
Cool. When was your, and you might have just said this, but maybe elaborate a little more. When was your passion realized for video and film and all the
Oh,
above?
well, that was way early on. So I actually worked at a video store in junior high and high school. I worked at a place that was like a neighborhood video store that when I grew up, I grew up a single mom and we really couldn't afford to do much. And so I convinced the owners of this video store to let me work there in trade for video rentals. And so I would go there when I was like 13 and put up movies on certain nights a week. And I watched movies. I worked there till I was 21. I worked as much as I could, loved watching movies all the time. I don't think we really had an AV club in my high school, but we made a ton of short films in high school with all my friends. But after high school, that kind of fell apart because it was just I didn't go to college, and I didn't get involved in film until I had a photography studio later on.
Awesome. What are you grateful for?
Oh, I'm definitely most grateful for my wife being such a good teacher and teaching me so much about photography and getting a good footing in how how things work and how a shot should look and what makes something beautiful and what makes something a piece of art, and from there being able to take that and make film out of it.
Something on what what do you think is harder, to get started in the industry or keeping it going?
Oh, keeping it going for sure. I mean, it's easy to get started to a certain degree, depending on what level you come in at and how much money you got. Because quite honestly, people come in at all levels and they can stay for one shoot and then you never hear from them again. But doing this is different than anything else you could ever do with your life. I mean, this is definitely a different type of freelance kind of gig. Only because a lot of freelancers that work out in the field, whether you're a graphic designer or maybe you're a welder, you're working for clients. You're going out and you're networking and you're building a client database, and then you're building a business. Where with film, if you're in a position of a crew where you're a gaffer, a grip, PA, makeup artist, you're not going out and getting clients to hire you. You're networking with other crew members. So you have to build a vast network of people that you collaborate with. They are kind of like your clients, but they're also your collaborators. So, and people don't realize that it's just a full-time job networking and keeping up with who you're going to get your next job from. It's a lot harder than even selling direct.
Yeah, So, what is one of your biggest achievements to date?
Well, just being able to pay my rent. That's usually a good one with video, but one of the biggest things we just did, I'm kind of excited about, is we won a Telly Award. We won a Gold Telly for a spot that I directed for a company called EmergiCare. It's a dog walker spot, and it's a 30-second commercial that ran on local television and on at a local movie theater, and it was awesome. I'm so happy that won an award.
Why is it memorable to you?
Why is that spot memorable?
Or either that spot or what stands out the most while you were working on that project?
The thing that really stood out the most on that project, honestly, was the collaboration. I just started working recently with a new director of photography. We had a brand new crew. We were kind of making some changes, and the synergy on that set was way different than on a couple of previous shoots. And I could tell that we were really trying to, the crew was gelling a little differently, and the comedy was coming out a little differently, and everything about the process was just a little bit better.
Okay. Do you have anything you do on a project as a ritual or a habit or a routine? Did you do like every day or weekly?
Any project I'm directing, I always do storyboards. I believe that they're critical, but I don't keep them in my back pocket. I put them up on what's called the Board of Accomplishment, which I stole from Jordan Brady. And he showed me this thing called the Board of Accomplishment. Basically, it's like a piece of black styrene that you put on a C-stand. And I'll put up all of the storyboards on there because I think it's important that everybody understand the direction we're going and what we're trying to accomplish as a team. And so the boards to me are really important. They're how I convey what we're trying to sell, what the message is, and also what's left on the day. So people are always knowing, okay, we got 6 shots left and we got 4 hours. What do we need to do? And it brings people together a little bit better, I think, than me keeping it all kind of guarded, not involving everybody. And I'll tell you one other thing real quick. With the boards, I think it's important that I do animatics for all my shoots. And one of the reasons why is because I think a lot of times people have great ideas, but when you get into the edit, you realize there's been some things overlooked. And you spent $20,000 on a spot, and you can't just go back. So I believe in taking the animatics and actually having the editor cut them, and then showing the client the animatic and getting them to approve that. I do that for a lot of my shoots.
It's powerful when, especially when someone can just come on and say, hey, "Oh, it's script." Like, gotta start with script or at least a storyboard, right? Because how else are you gonna know where to go to next? Or like, it maybe if you're shooting out of order, when you're shooting out of order, it's important to know what you have left to shoot and how to schedule and all.
No, it really is. And I think the clients appreciate the animatic. If I'm doing client direct work, if I'm doing agency work, it's totally different. They are creatives. They understand the process. But when I've got a client that's a local hospital that the marketing person that's never done a commercial before has hired us, I want to show them what they're getting before we get on set so it's not an issue, you know? Because once you're on set, it's too late to make changes.
Yeah, when you're on set, yeah. It's pretty much, oh, light this up, let's go. 3 takes, move on to the next page if it's acceptable or not.
Exactly.
But who inspires you the most in your work?
God, there's
to do the work.
Well, I mean, I follow a slew of commercial directors on Vimeo, and I love Vimeo for the fact that you can look at who follows who, and you can chase yourself down some really deep rabbit holes to find creatives that you can collaborate with and you can actually talk to. I was on a job not too long ago. I met a guy. he followed 3 guys from National Geographic that were working on this documentary. I started following them. I connected with them. I messaged them, and they responded back, and they were able to offer me some amazing advice on the documentary we were working on, because I don't really have a lot of documentary friends here in Houston that shoot the kind of level of documentary that Nat Geo does. And so there's just a ton of commercial photographers out there that just really, to look at their work and know that they're doing the same kind of work with the same type of crew and trying to hit that kind of look. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it reminds me of a guest I had a couple weeks or month back. He was part of actually a Nat Geo documentary that was filmed on one of the biggest film sets. I don't know if you heard about this. One of the biggest film sets in, I don't want to say the world, but maybe the country, but definitely Texas.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was a big thing for Texas Film Commission too. Shot in Fort Hood. You heard the documentary The Long Road Home?
No.
National Geographic. It's an 8-part miniseries on April 4th, 2004. I may not be getting that date correct either, but it's around April 2004 about the Black Sunday, about the ambush on a army platoon in Sadr City, Iraq.
Oh, wow.
You should go check that out. It's shot right on Fort Hood base.
Okay. That's awesome.
Pretty much all 8-part miniseries, and it's Nat Geographic, and it was a big thing for the Texas Film Commission too.
I love to hear things like that are being made in Texas. I mean, that's awesome.
So, and your documentary and inspiration, and you brought up Nat Geo, and that just came to my mind that way. So, who inspired you about you follow Vimeo followers on Vimeo? Is there anyone that specifically that you may have worked with or connected with that has influenced or inspired your work?
Yeah, I think that for one, and I'm not really good with names, so this is not like my strongest answer. But for one, my director of photography and myself, I think we push each other in ways that are very positive. Like, we're constantly looking at what's coming next in technology, and also we look at our shoots and we look at what we didn't like, and we look at the next ones, and we really just try our best to get the best possible, either the best possible talent for our sets, the best possible lighting for our sets, get the best casting, the best performances. I mean, me and him work together a lot, and we really do push each other to create better work.
Right from your own team. That's awesome, actually.
Yeah, Rob's a pretty amazing DP. He's good, and he brings a lot to the table, and he makes, and because he brings so much to the table, it requires me to bring even more every time we go on set.
So I've heard this from another podcaster who does kind of shows like this more broad, but I started asking this question: what is one question you wish people would ask you more of?
I think one question, gosh, I don't know. Let me think about that. I think from a client standpoint, because I deal with a lot of direct clients, because I'm doing a lot more because I'm the director, I'm interacting with clients a lot more than other people are. And I guess sometimes clients, I wish they would ask more about the process, because it's such an involved process. It's not like we show up with a handy cam and we just start shooting. There's a big amount of pre-production that goes into this. When we show up on set, there's a large crew, there's a lot of equipment, and a lot of people are not fully prepared or understand the process. And I wish they would get more involved on that side.
You mentioned about how you like, again, followed on, but going back to Vimeo again, followers. You look and see who's out there, connecting with a few of them. How many connections have you had that led to a future role on a project?
I don't know that I've had any Vimeo projects that led to future roles, but I will tell you, like, there's a guy named Kip Hewitt that I met on Vimeo. He's the guy who does all the Titleist golf commercials, and I've talked to him enough times now through Vimeo that I email him animatics, and I'll be like, "Is this good enough? Do I need to improve this? Can you give me some feedback before we get on set?" And for me, on the Vimeo front, I'm not looking for people to throw me work as much as I'm looking for people to help me become better at my craft. I'm looking at people who are 3 times as good as me, and they can go, wow, here's one little thing you can do with this shoot that will save you 100% headache in post. And those are the kind of things I'm looking for that, I think in this industry, it's very difficult to do it on your own. And so to have somebody that you can throw, hey, well, do you think this is a good idea or not? And get a response is powerful.
I totally agree. You can't do a whole shoot by yourself. That's out of the question. How do you take on a role when you're working with a large team?
What do you mean?
It's good transition into this question. Or should I start with, have you worked, what's the biggest project that you've worked on?
I've had a couple of big ones where we had crews of about 40, including talent, on a set at one time. I did a project for Halliburton last year. I'm sorry, there's a message on the screen. Okay. Last year I did a project for Halliburton where we did some videos for them when we had a crew of about 40. And again, the approach to that project isn't a whole lot different than my approach to smaller projects. We start with the same kind of information, but the animatic is the key, because on a day like that, so we had 40 crew, we had a team of 40, it was about 20 actors and 20 crew members. It was a 3-day shoot, so for 3 days back to back we were with the same people doing the work. But we had so many shots to get in that the prep on that was pretty intense. Like literally, I think we did 35 setups a day. It was a lot. We were running 2 different camera departments on the last day to catch up, and we were running an A crew and a B crew, and we were knocking stuff out of the park. But the thing about that is you've got to have really good pre-production when you're going to those types of shoots. You've got to have a really thought out shot list. You've really got to make sure that you're maximizing the amount of moves you're making, so that if you're shooting a setup where you've got 2 people talking, always shoot the reactions. That's the biggest thing I've learned, because you need to cut back to them. You got to have the reactions. So when you're in an office and you're shooting corporate BS and you've got 2 people sitting at a desk and you're going to shoot 4 or 5 different things, and you can do them pretty quick if that's a setup. And that sometimes will save you in the edit, because there's extra 8 seconds of coverage of somebody's hands on a keyboard or somebody looking at a monitor or whatever it is that you need. That sometimes will just save you in an edit. So that's one of the things that really helped by having that big of a crew and having the board of accomplishment, being able to check stuff off as we went through it throughout the day, and having our shot list pretty specific. I mean, but that's really not much different than when we do a small shoot. We did a shoot last Saturday with a 3-man crew, and it was the exact same process, just less people to manage.
So, and that's some great advice on how to, it's how you call work smarter, not harder.
100%.
And you're, with that, why is teamwork so important?
Well, it's going to show up in your end result. I can tell you that for sure. I've been on sets where people didn't gel, and you can tell in the product. I mean, you can suck the energy out of a set real fast. And so it's important, I think, as the director, to be positive, to be cheerful, to treat everybody with respect, to not yell. I mean, we've had some things happen on set that were kind of bad, but I mean, having everybody in a bad mood doesn't make that not happen. You just deal with it and go on, you know. But energy is important. You gotta have good energy on set. But we're making movies. We're making fake believe. Like, this is playtime. Like, if you're yelling at people and screaming, and you're making pretend images, man. Come on. I don't yell at people.
So, given your team, selecting your team, how do you pick out your team members?
Well, I think that's just like any kind of good coach. I mean, you may have somebody that's super good at a job. I mean, they are the absolute best gaffer. They're the best DP. They're the whatever. But if they don't gel with your crew, and you can't, and it's not the right kind of chemistry, it doesn't matter. I will take the B guy as far as a crew member goes, over the A guy if he's going to gel better with my team, because it's more important that we enjoy what we do. We're not walking around eggshells around this one, crew member, because everything has to be a certain way. I mean, I've worked with ACs and gaffers that if they would just get mad over the littlest things because they're used to doing it a certain way, and I understand that, but it has to be good chemistry, I mean, that's the bottom line. And it's sometimes, I'll tell you this, you develop a team. I've probably gone through, I would think, 30 crew members, just to be honest, where it's like you try people out in different positions to get to the right people. A lot of people come to town and they're out of town companies. They want the best AC, the best gaffer, the best blah, blah, blah. You're doing a one-day shoot for Walmart. I get it. You're going to hire the best, and that's going to be the crew, and it doesn't matter whether they like each other or not. But when I have to work with somebody on a 7-day job, I want to make sure we all like each other. That's important to have fun.
So, and keeping it fun. How do you keep that relationship with each team member as strong as you can possibly keep it? How do you keep it strong?
Well, I think you have to treat it with respect. I mean, that's the most important thing. You just be nice to people, I think that for crew members, whether you're a grip or an AD on a set, everybody should be treated with respect, I think there's sometimes a hierarchy in the film business where people walk around a little bit like they're divas, I own a grip truck and I gaff sometimes, and if I'm directing on a set, I'm not going to not pick up a C-stand because I'm the director. I mean, we're all there together, and I think it helps if you give all your crew members free weed at the end of the shoot. That keeps them coming back from the next day. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you said earlier. You're on set making pretend images. Keep it fun, keep it light, and you should have a good day, right?
No, totally. And it is a serious business. I mean, don't get me wrong. When a client gives you $50,000 to make a 30-second spot, I mean, we have to do the work and deliver the spot they bought. You know what I mean? But, it's up to us to choose how we're going to get there.
How have what you learned from school or from just your experiences, how did what you learned make you better today?
Well, I think that's important to have mentors. I think that in every industry, in every city, in every industry, there's going to be people that are at the top of their game and guys that are maybe getting out of their game. I think I learned a lot from YouTube, not from actually watching videos on YouTube, but on the fact that people want to share for free. I mean, that's the truth. People like yourself creating a podcast for filmmakers. I mean, we're in a society where we like to help each other, and I think that leaves a legacy. We're all storytellers, and I think if you go out and find the best gaffer in your town and go work with them, find the best DP and go work with them, and become their friend and get them to mentor you a little bit and teach you. That's how you get better at this business.
So, all right, moving into getting some work in here. Tell us about the last film you saw. Maybe you went to the movie or a theater. Do you go to a theater a lot? Movie theater?
I do. So,
What's the last film you saw?
all right, the last film I saw is probably not going to be the greatest the greatest movie ever made. I went and saw The Meg the other night by myself. The gigantic shark.
Okay, that's the best. On my opinion, that's the best way to go. I like to go by myself. My for myself at the especially at the end, how I visualize what I want to do is at the very end, looking at the credit list.
Ah,
I
that's
love
awesome.
watching the credit list. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people do not like that, but I wish they would a little more. But
No, I like the credits. I do. I think that we just got a new movie. There's a movie theater here that just got remodeled. And it's like a little 4 theater. It's not stadium seat or anything, but it's like $5 on a weeknight. And so if my wife, she teaches in the evenings 3 nights a week, so she didn't get home till like 11. So a lot of times I'll go for $5. I can go watch, I can go watch a movie.
so going back to that film, how could you make it better if you had to change something?
How can I make the Meg better? It's pretty fun. I mean, that was a pretty cute movie. I call that a cute movie. It's a gigantic shark eating people. I say it's cute because I think that Jason Statham and the whole thing was kind of funny. How would I make that movie better? Well, I honestly felt like they killed the second shark a little. I didn't feel like it was. Honestly, I felt like the Meg should have been a little bit more like Godzilla towards the end, because it would have been it was so big, it should have been like a military response. That's what I was expecting, because Godzilla always has like the entire army attacking him or whatever. That's what I was thinking.
What would you consider your, I like to say, call it the bread and butter of your experiences? What is your bread and butter or your strength?
I think my strength is probably comes from my sales background, just good communicating with people and having fun talking with people. I mean, I think that directors usually are good salespeople because you have to convince somebody to give you the money to produce the spot, you know? So I think that communication with me and just talking, having fun, that's probably my strongest, the strongest thing about me.
What is a mistake that you see a lot of on sets or from beginners or experts? A mistake.
And it's something that I make a lot, or I used to make a lot more now, but chasing shots, I think that's a big time killer on set, and that's why the boards are so important. You can't chase shots down rabbit holes because you'll end up spending an hour lighting something that isn't even used. And if you do an animatic and you go into the edit suite with the animatic before you shoot, you don't need that shot. Otherwise it'd already be in the boards. So I think that that's a big mistake. I think another big mistake people do is not serving lunch on time. That's my pet peeve, man. I mean, people that come from not our business, you're an agency from out of town, you're a producer from out of town, you're some local doctor. We do this 5 days a week, and every day I have to, get served. I have to work 6 hours before we get lunch, or we're going to get the same pizza every day, every week. Pizza is not a set food. I 100% believe that you should not serve pizza on set ever, because if everybody serves pizza, all you eat is pizza every day, So that's my biggest pet peeve is lunch. I can tell you how many times I've worked where they just skip lunch completely, and it just, you're working a 12-hour day without a break. I feel very strongly about lunch.
Yeah. Creative services is important. How do you know when the story is finished, or do you ever know?
As far as for me, 90% of what I do is commercials. So, obviously that question is probably more relevant to somebody who's more of an indie filmmaker. But, for me, it's when the 30-second time hits, it's over.
Well, Have you done any kind of have you gone outside that maybe for just one project?
No, I direct. I mean, I've directed quite a few shorts. I mean, and I've worked. Well, right now we're working on a sitcom. We're self-funding a sitcom. So, you know, I think that like on this one short that we did, we were paid. The budget on it was decent. I want to say it was 25,000, and we did a ton of work. But then it kept going and going and going. The producer was like, "I want to add a little bit more, add a little bit more, add a little bit more." And at some point, you just had to say, "We're done," because we were at almost 25 minutes on this short. And I was like, "Nobody's gonna watch it. You're not gonna get into festivals. It's getting too long. At this point, it might as well be a feature." So I think on that one, we ended up having to cut it. Eventually, we just had to say, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So, but I think when you're working on your own projects, it's a little easier to let them go and not. It's a little easier to have them continue on for years and years, or keep going. But at some point, you gotta wrap it up, put it in the can, and send it on to be done.
What's your role on this project that you're currently on?
Director, producer. We are producing a 30-minute television series with a bunch of stand-up comedians. We've shot the first 10 minutes of the first episode. We've got 2 more days scheduled next month to shoot the rest of it, and then we'll. That's what I'm meeting with Foley artists for today. We're actually doing the Foley on the first 2, and I'm trying to hire somebody that can continue to do our Foley. But we're pretty happy with the way it's coming out. It looks really awesome. I mean, the DP that we're using, Rob Nielsen, he's fantastic. It looks amazing. It's super funny. We've got comedians in it, so they're naturally funny. So I'm pretty excited.
I ever since you said that you're in the commercial directing industry, I couldn't help but think, have you heard of or maybe have met a guy by the name of Jordan Brady?
Oh yeah, if you look at my Facebook page, I've gone to 2 of his workshops. So Jordan's fantastic.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
He was my first guest on this podcast.
Oh really? Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very
the king.
Cool.
He knows more about any of the commercial direction stuff more than anybody. So he's a mentor of mine for sure. I've reached out to him multiple times, phone, email, and said, "Hey, I've got a problem with this, or I'm working on this. What do you think?" And he's always able to respond and give me a quick little, "Hey, just try this instead, and you'll be happy." I've learned so much from him.
And I guess he's done work with Texans, and he does a lot of stuff for Toyota.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I'm working on this comedy show is there's a stand-up comedian here in Houston named Slade Ham.
Mm-hmm.
Slade was in I Am Battle Comic. He was one of the stars.
Okay.
And so Slade actually lives in Houston. So Jordan connected me and Slade's starring in this spot we're doing. So it all comes full circle.
There's the connections again.
Yep. It all comes full circle.
All right. Not gonna go there. So the thing that we actually met a couple years back, this event, it was actually, and these are questions I'm just thinking out of my head now. I don't know if I sent these to you prior, but it was all about safety and safety on sets. If you remember that
Mm-hmm.
event, and how do you word this the right way? How do you stress the importance of safety on your sets?
Well, safety on set is something that honestly, because most of my sets aren't, they're corporate walking, talking head type stuff. They're not quite as involved. I've not done a whole lot of stuff. I've done a couple of stunts. We had safety people on set for that. We had stunt coordinators on set for those. But on my normal sets, they're pretty basic. Like we're at, a hospital already, or we're shooting at a chemical plant. They usually have a safety person walk out and give us the 411 on what needs to happen, where the emergency exits are, and all that. We had Exxon the other day. We have to go like a 25-minute safety brief before we can get in the building. On my smaller sets, I don't really, honestly, we don't do a whole lot because of that. But I will tell you that I'm dealing with a new insurance company right now, and I'm learning about how my insurance affects other crew members. And if you're working for an out-of-town crew, you have to make sure that they have workman's comp now. Because if you're hurt on their set and they don't have workman's comp, you're not going to get reimbursed for your injuries. Production insurance is different than workman's comp insurance I've been learning about. And your workman's comp is supposed to cover crew, talent, and volunteers. So you get some free PA coming on set for the first time just to see what it's about, or, so-and-so's son is going to come and go get lunch for everybody. Guess what? They're driving their car, go get your lunch, and they get in a car wreck. It's a big deal. So safety is definitely important. I don't know that I'm the right. I don't do a whole lot of safety stuff just because we're talking heads, Did you watch have you looked at my website at all?
I have. I didn't watch too much of. Now I know a lot more, and now I can go back and just browse. Pretty much just want to browse it all, but.
Well, there's a shot on there for a company called Preferred Air where a guy falls through a ceiling and he crashes onto a dining room table, and that one has a stunt, and we had a safety person there for that.
What is that called?
Preferred Air.
Preferred Air?
Yeah, Preferred Air Houston. So the guy was kind of like basically he jumped off of an overhead platform and bust through this dining room table, and we had cut the table in half already, and we just had it taped together, and so when he falls, it kind of breaks quick. But it came out awesome. But it's super funny. But that was the biggest stunt I've done lately.
What do you know or learn? What do you know that you learn that others may not know?
I don't know that I know anything nobody else knows. Everything I've gotten, I've learned from somebody else. So, I think it's just important to be open-minded and to look at everybody's way of doing things, because you never know when somebody has a better way of doing something. I'll give you an example. I'm learning to tie knots right now for on-set use. I'm like watching YouTube videos on how to tie knots, because I need to be able to tie better knots on my sets, and I get tired of watching people not be able to tie knots, and I don't know how to do it either. So I went on and found like the 10 top knots to tie as a grip, and every day I have rope right up here, and I sit here and I tie knots, trying to figure out a better way to do a knot. So
I know they do that. I wish I paid attention because I was a Boy Scout. There's so many different knots that you can learn how to tie.
True. I had no idea there were so many knots, and so many different ways to tie the same knot. Like there's one guy that I watched that only does one-handed knots, where he ties the rope around his hand and then he like flips his hand and there's the knot. So like I guess if your hand is trapped under a rock, you can still tie the knot. I don't know. So it's interesting.
What is, and this may be a weird question, but what is the greatest weakness that has actually contributed to the way things turned out? of yours, a greatest weakness of yours?
Um, are you there?
My plug came out and my Mac was telling me battery's about to die.
No problem. Is it good?
Yeah.
All right. Greatest weakness. Well, I guess the greatest weakness would be that I knew that I didn't know as much as I needed to when I started doing this. And I did a couple of jobs where I hired cheaper crews and the products were kind of poorly produced. And I went on a couple of sets where I saw some really good people doing it was all the A-listers in town producing big spots. And they were doing great jobs and big lights and big sets and, all the bells and whistles brought out. And I thought, this is what I want to do. So I immediately started selling higher level products so I could get bigger crews on set. And by getting bigger crews on set, I was able to learn much faster, So I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened, was that by walking onto some really big sets and not knowing anything, and knowing that I didn't know anything, gave me the ability to want to do that and strive for that. And by selling those bigger jobs, I was able to improve a lot faster. I mean, I went from doing very small jobs to doing very big jobs in a real fast amount of time. And that's because I was on sets with people that were doing awesome work.
Hold on. People knock on the door. Some interruptions. I don't usually have this.
It's funny. So what's it like talking to Jordan on the phone or on the podcast? That was fun, huh?
Yeah, that was fun. It helped me get off my podcast with a good start. Good start to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely an A-lister in the filmmaking podcast world.
And when I started reaching out, it was like on Twitter, and he was one of the first to respond to me.
Yeah.
And just through Twitter alone. So we just talked about your weakness. What's the greatest strength that has contributed in the way things turned out?
Well, that might be the same thing. Knowing what my weaknesses are. Yeah, I mean, the greatest strength I think is collaboration, and I guess it's kind of being a good networker and a good recruiter and a good friend, because you need a good team. And the easiest thing to do is to work with good people. That's how you become good in this business. You just work with good people. It's not who you are till you know. And if you can surround yourself with good people, you'll have a good product. And that's the bottom line. And I used to get real frustrated listening to some directors talk about casting. And it's like, well, how do you make a good movie? Well, you cast good people. Well, that's great if you can afford, to cast, Tom Hanks in your movie. Well, but how does Adam Taylor cast good people here at, for a $3,000 low budget television commercial? Like, how do I afford to hire somebody that's good? So, but I think the truth is you're not going to cast somebody that's great at that rate. You're just going to have to get bigger budgets and hire better people. And that's the truth. It's crew. That's That's the truth.
Is there? It may have been like going back to the mistake thing, but what a weakness that you've noticed in others that has affected an outcome of a project?
Trying to do too much on your own. I mean, truthfully, not collaborating. That's the biggest weakness that most filmmakers have. That's the problem that I found with a lot of photographers is they convert over, because in photography, it's a very one-man band. You're the artist as an individual. You're behind the camera, and you're the only person in the room. And when you go to video, there's 12 people standing there. And truthfully, they're all wanting to be the director. I mean, everybody wants to be the director, and I understand that. I want to be the director too. I mean, that's the job I want. I mean, but trying to do everything on your own, like I'm watching a master class right now with Ken Burns, and it's phenomenal. And there's like on the 3rd episode, he's like, hire a good cinematographer. If you want to be a good storyteller, hire a good cinematographer. And you go into the forum, and immediately there's people going, well, with today's technology, I can do it all. I shoot, edit, audio, Foley, sound mix. And I'm just like, and it sounds like you do it all. It's awful. Like, don't do all of that. Like, I don't do Foley because I suck at it, and I'm hiring somebody because I want it to be good.
And just moving to the strength in others. What strength in others has affected the outcome?
You know, Rob, my DP, Rob Nielsen, that I work with a lot, he really has, me and him valued the quality of the image a lot. And we really put a lot of stress on the quality of the image, which I like. I like having somebody that wants to race to the top of the image versus to the bottom. You know, there's so many people willing to not rent good equipment or have good lights on set just to get the shot. And I get very frustrated by that. That's not a set I want to be on. And to be on a set where it's like, okay, well, let's take 5 more minutes and let's just make this image that much better. That makes me a better filmmaker too, because I'm always looking for how to improve that image. So being around people like that are always trying to squeeze just a little bit more out of every shot are the kind of people you want to be around.
Go back to time. Maybe it was happiest moment or a scariest moment. Whatever stands out the most. What's a happiest moment you had on a set?
Well, I think when we did that stunt with that guy falling through the table, and then when that happened, because you get one take at it. You know, we had another table, but just asking him to do it twice is probably not going to be a good thing. And he did such a good job. And when we saw that on playback and it looked that good, I was like, wow, that was fun. I can tell you that for me, it's the finished product is so awesome. And when you get to sit with the client, and a lot of times, my wife being a photographer taught me this trick. When I show the video to the client, I very rarely watch the video. I watch the client and I see how their reactions are, what they're doing. You know, and when you see them smile and you see them happy and you see the way that either they see themselves or they see their product or their company on a finished video. I mean, that's the reason I do it, is for that point right there. That's the product. I mean, we're getting to make that, and when I get to see somebody really happy with what we did, that's the best part.
Yeah, same thing. Like when you're in a screening, it's pretty much the same thing. You're screening your film, and I hear this a lot. The directors like to watch the audience, look at the audience reactions.
Right.
So
No, it makes sense.
Someone else said on another show that they're like, what we're not in the film business. We're not in this business. We're in the reaction business. Anywhere you work, you're actually in the world. We're in the reaction business.
Yeah, probably so. That's probably true. Yeah.
And it's how we all react to pretty much anything. Do you have a scariest moment or a saddest or maybe a funniest moment?
Well, yeah. I mean,
On a set?
well, saddest is like a couple weeks back, I was doing a job, and well, let me put it this way: the saddest moments are when a client has expectations for you to do something, but they're not able to afford their idea, or they don't want to help you complete their idea. So like we were doing a hotel conference video. It was a big hotel, huge hotel, and halfway through the day, I mean, the marketing people that work at the hotel never came on set. They never approved a shot. They never participated whatsoever. And that's kind of frustrating for us because they were the ones that were providing us with all the locations, all the talent, set dressing, the everything. Like we waited like almost an hour for a table to be set dressed because they didn't have their stuff together. And that's like the most frustrating thing you can do is know that you're not going to make your day and it's out of your control. Like that is absolutely the worst feeling in the world.
And do you have a funny moment?
Not any appropriate ones. We have a lot of funny stuff, but I mean, the sets are always fun. I mean, you know, I don't know that I have a moment that was just crazy fun, but like I said, you got to keep it lighthearted and just joke. You know, we joke all day long. I'm not sure how to say it, but it's like we're in a very serious business that we don't take seriously on set. Something along those lines is kind of our motto.
All right, we can let our imaginations flow from there. What would your parents have to say if they had a part on a project that you do or have done?
They would probably just be surprised at the scale of video. Like when you walk into a set and you got a 12 by with a 4K shooting through it, it's kind of like, wow, this is big, you know. And that's like, I think that would be the most surprising thing for them was, because you know, most people have the same perception. You show up with a handy cam and you're just going to do a little video. It's not, you know, it's not a set of 20 working professionals. So I think they would most be excited just to scale, which is what gets me excited. Every time I walk on the set and I see the grip trucks unloading and all the gear coming out and we're rolling in carts, I mean, that's the best part of it. I mean, that's just a good feeling.
Getting to a wrap up point, I have just a few more questions. Like to end with here. Call these bonus questions. And I think I asked these questions, but I think you kind of maybe elaborate a little more. But you asked this already or answered this already, I think. But what do you want to learn from someone who has seen success multiple times? And what is that thing? What and who do you want to learn from?
Oh, I mean, truthfully, there's so many great filmmakers out there and so many great directors. Like, you know, if you're talking anybody, I mean, to sit next to Tom Cruise or not, I mean, Tom Hanks or Denzel Washington or Quentin Tarantino, and just to sit through a process. Like to go on set on a shoot and just sit in a corner and watch. I could learn so much, but you know, to be able to interact with people on set in a way that's meaningful and to give good direction is what's most important to me. I think that a lot of that has to do in your rehearsals and how much time you get to spend with actors, and that goes to our budgets. You know, I mean, a lot of our budgets don't give us enough money to rehearse a lot with our actors, and a lot of the projects we're working on are MOS. They're B-roll videos. It's like, you know, you show people doing stuff and there's a voiceover. So the interaction with the actors, hey, waitress, grab that tray and walk across the room. Like that's the shot, you know. And so to work on projects with bigger budgets where you're getting to really work with actors, that's what I want to learn how to do better. That's truly what I want to learn.
And why do you think the film industry is important in our world?
I think the film industry is important because I think it's a social justice equalizer. Sometimes I think it can change people's views on issues, for good or for bad, and it can also motivate and inspire people. It can make you want to get up and go do something. It can make you want to sit down and do nothing. I mean, there's a lot of emotion that goes into a good film. And different films have different points. I mean, obviously something like The Meg is just for 2 hours of fun, you know, and something like Shawshank Redemption is going to make you change the way you look at prison system, you know. So I think film has a very important. Well, film is a great medium for people to make important statements, whether they're short films or long films or television commercials. I mean, you can do a lot in a 30-second ad. I mean, look at the political ads that are running right now. I mean, you can say a lot in 30 seconds, you know.
Just want to just grateful to be able to connect with you again after so many years and just connect back and have this talk with you today. Thank you for doing this with me.
It was fun. Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
I have one more question, but I just want to get you where do you hang out the most on for people to say hi? Where you are on social media?
Instagram is probably the number one place that I put images for video. I do get on Facebook for messaging. I have a lot of people message me through Facebook for jobs, and that's great. That's what I use it for. But Instagram is where I'm putting all my BTS images, and that's going to be Adam_Taylor_imaging on Instagram, or my website, AdamTaylorDirector.com, has those links at the bottom.
Cool. Go check out his work. He did commercial director Adam Taylor. You can find him. You say hey on Twitter. Tell him that you heard him on the show.
All right. Well, thanks very much, man. Anything else?
One more question. I have 3 movies, or maybe one that you think that best describes your life. I asked for 3, but if you can give 3.
The best describes my life? I don't know if I've ever thought of that. The movie that best describes my life. Maybe The Sandlot. I'd go there.
It's a good movie.
You know, I wish that I lived in Goonies. That would be my second favorite. And then I guess truthfully right now, the way that my life is, I feel like I'm probably in Gladiator. That's where I'm at right now. But yeah,
Sandlot and Gladiator. All right.
Thanks again, man. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, no problem. And I have to check back again sometime down the line, see where you've been since last time we talked today.
All right, I look forward to it.
All right.